Hey, welcome to the Savannah African Art Museum. My name is Maxime, and today I'll be talking about casting bronze and writing history, or as the Benin would say, SAAM. And so I'll be focusing here on this bronze plaque of the Benin peoples. All right, so the Benin people, just to refresh, are a people located in the country of Nigeria today. They are a kingdom with an almost millennium-long history, and one that goes even further back if you speak of the dynasty that preceded the Benin kingdom, which was ruled by the Ogiso kings, or the Sky Kings. But we'll focus here on the Benin kingdom, and especially with the shift in culture that they have, which has to do especially with this practice right here of bronze casting. The practice of bronze casting is, depending on which version you go along with, is said to have come from either Ife or from within Benin itself. And this has a lot to do with the Benin history and its own autonomy and, of course, interpretations, which is, a very general feature of histories in general. And so back with the bronze pieces, again with the word I used previously, aseyama, which means to cast in bronze. This word in Benin is synonymous with history, and this has a lot to do with the way they record the history, which is bronze casting, so we're full circle. The bronze casting typically relates events of the kingdom's past and its history, quite often through the guise of the Oba and the personalities that surround his court. And so these plaques would have been contained within the Oba's palace, and a lot of them were retrieved from the Oba's palace during the unfortunate Benin, the British expedition to Benin. Fortunately for us, the ones we have here are replicas of the originals, and the ones that were taken from the palace itself are in many private collections today, and very specifically at the British Museum to this day. So there's a lot of discussion around it and the history of it and what it means, not just for the history, but also the past, the present, and the future. But back to the history telling, you can see a lot of the visuals of the Benin culture, and this is a very wonderful depiction because of the way it translates very directly to all of the customs that are still practiced in Benin today, which is much more the positive aspect of the history in general, which is that it is still continuing just because of its strength, and a lot of its strength has to do with this practice of bronze casting. Again, just to finish off with the personalities that are presented, you can see, for example, we have here what could be either a chief or a king with the coral regalia. The king is known as the Oba, by the way. With this coral regalia and this ivory bell, of course, cast in bronze. And so you can break down bit by bit aspects of the Benin court. But then we also have the other very interesting aspect, which is the bronze casting itself. Bronze casting, of course, is a very intricate technique of not just art making, but in this case, keeping history. And it has it's a very interesting look at not just the Benin kingdom, but histories in general, and how generation after generation of kingdoms, empires, communities, etc. will do their best to perpetuate their culture and their history in the form they find most solid. We have, for example, the Greeks with marble, we have the Egyptians and stone, and so in Benin's case it would be bronze. Bronze not just for its durability, which is what a lot of those materials have in common, but also for the color that it would have had originally when cast, which was red. And red is a color directly affiliated with the Benin kings, the Obas. The reason for that again draws a bit of the argument about their history being tied to Ife and the Yoruba. and you can even see why they try to distinguish themselves in this case, because the color red in the Yoruba lore is associated with kingship and the Orisha known as Shango. And so when you look at these ideas and the visual presentation of history, you can see that this is just another form of perpetuating not just the history or the specific story being told, but also the culture and its values. And also when you think within context of what and where these pieces would have served, and again the perpetuation of a culture, is that these plaques would have been placed within the Oba's palace, which is typically made of red earth. And the Benin in general is historically known for the kingdom of Benin, and Benin City is known for its earthenworks, which are reputed to be perhaps the longest in the world, even longer than the Great Wall of China. And these earthenworks are just very tight and concentrated within the city of Benin, the capital. And again, in terms of perpetuating culture and the ideas and the history, is that the earthworks were started with the king the Oba known as Ewari the Great, and not only served to protect Benin from invaders, but also served as a way of channeling, very literally, peoples, and channeling and separating peoples, and basically organizing the kingdom through physical means. And so the earthworks served to separate, for example, the palace from the surrounding guilds, and so basically create a very physical hierarchy of kingdoms of Benin, within the kingdom of Benin. And again, in terms of perpetuating the culture itself, all of these images and ideas come together to create a unified cultural identity, which again is further solidified with plaques and depictions such as these, which depict, for example, here very well and very conveniently, an Oba and his court alongside him. And so that is the conclusion for today. Thanks for tuning in. Follow us here and subscribe to our channel. The more subscribers we have, the closer we get to having our own channel here on YouTube. The better resources we have on this channel, the better we can provide you with more information and more videos and more content. So thanks again for following. Like and subscribe, of course share, and let us know what you think. And of course, the more information the better. Keep sharing. Thank you and take care.